is real. I'm not going there. Jesus Christ said in Matthew chapter number 5, hellfire. Oh, if I thought for a moment I was going to hell, I don't think I could sleep tonight. If I thought for a moment that I may die, my body may cease today, my heart may beat its last. This may be my last day on planet Earth. It may be your last day on planet Earth. You may be totally, completely, physically healthy right now, but something takes your life away. You could die before the sun goes down. Your body could be lying dead in the morgue down here somewhere, and they'll be having your funeral a couple of days from now. Where will you be?
If at any time you have said hell is not real, or God is too loving for hell, I beg you watch this video. This video will wake you up. This woke me up and it shook me to my core, and I'm a Christian. Imagine what we do to somebody who's not saved. Let us consider to have a healthy fear for God and a fearful mind towards the things that contradict His will. Let us watch this incredible video together. I will give my thoughts on the back end. I will see you there. But let us dive into this video.
If you're very smart today, have half intelligence, you ought to be doing some thinking about where you're going when you leave this world. There's one thing that is absolutely certain, and you ought to know this. You should know it and come to face with it. Come to the facts and settle this. You are going to die.
Shalom. First, I think of all glory and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakadash. Double honors that teaches others in the voice of great millstone, likewise, brothers, but not this truth. Faithfully fearlessly feeding the sheep and the brothers and sisters tuning in. Shalom. Today's lesson is titled Esau's Greatest Fear, Hell. Now, you saw in the opening clip, that Jake, based on his accent, he might be a Benjamite. Okay, he seems to, be under the Christianity illusion that hell is this, place you go to after you die, which we know the spirit of everybody goes back to the Most High Yahweh, where He gives out that judgment. And we're going to go into scriptures which talks about this hell condition that He has power over. Okay, everybody. Okay, this is Jake. He was enthralled by this so-called pastor here, Charles Larson, who died in 2022. And I looked him up, and he seemed to be associated, during the time he was alive, heavily with these Freemasonry, although he wasn't as wealthy as like T.D. Jakes and, Creflo Dollar and those guys, nonetheless, his ministry was very deceptive, and our people, they love, to hear these mystical tales that come from these people who are unlearned. And we know hell is a condition, okay? It is not a punishment in some fiery lake that you're just gonna burn everlasting like that. It's a condition. We can go into the book of Luke 12 and Star Wars 4. It reads, "And I say unto you, my friends, be not afraid of them that kill the body, and after that have no more that they can do. But I will forewarn you whom you shall fear. Fear him which after he had killed had power to cast into hell. Yea, I say unto you, fear him." And hell is that condition that we are in right now. Now, as I open up with the title of this lesson, which is Esau's Greatest Fear, Hell. Okay, the people that are running this earth, the wicked elite, they know what hell is. They know the judgment that they're going to get at the conclusion of their rulership on this earth. They know what is coming, which is the Mashiach, okay, which is going to destroy them, their kingdom, okay, and cast them from heaven, this is their heaven and this is our hell, okay. And the Lord, Yahweh Shai, as promised, He put us in this hellish condition. When you go into the book of Deuteronomy 28, starting from verse 16 to verse 68, all those are conditions of hell that the current Hebrew Israelite, us so-called blacks, Native Americans, and Latinos, okay, are in, especially here in Great Babylon, America, okay? Drugs, oppression, fiscal disaster, okay, or financial disaster, moral decay. All of these are conditions that we're in. In the meantime, okay, these Edomites are in their heaven on different levels, okay? Let's go into the book of Jeremiah 50 and 33, because we've been, this hellish condition that we're in has been played out for centuries, okay? Has been playing out for centuries for us, okay? When you look at the heaven of the so-called white man, okay, he, he has a history of, art and inventions, and, he, have political power. He has all the wealth, he's renowned, he's famous. In the meantime, all our history is showing us is that we've been slaves. Okay, we're hung from trees, we go by bywords, by names. We're constantly at the bottom. Okay, and that's a hellish condition that we're in right now, while he is in his heaven because he has the ability to inflict these hellish condition on us. Okay, this is Jeremiah 50:33 reads, "Thus said the Lord of hosts, Yahweh Shemel Shai, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, both the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. And all that took them captives held them fast, they refused to let them go." Okay, now you could say, well, they're letting the Northern Kingdom tribes out of America right now. Well, are they really? They send them from one hellish condition to another because they're imprisoning them. Okay, our people right now, these so-called Latinos and Hispanic, the hellish condition that they're experiencing right now is this fear. They're being dragged out of the workplace. They now have to go in hiding. They're not showing up to work now because of fear of being grabbed and thrown into some unmarked van, okay, and toted off to some place. In the news, they're telling you they're taking them and putting them on a plane and sending them away. But notice that there's no more footage of showing that anymore where they're actually putting them on a plane. So where are they taking these people now? Where are they taking our people? Okay? So this is a hellish condition, and this is all part of Deuteronomy 28, Psalm from verse 16 to 68, where we're going to be. We have no assurance of our life. We can't get ahead. No matter how hard we try, we can't get ahead. And especially for the male, especially the Judite male, okay, the so-called Negro, okay, we'll constantly have a target on our back. Everybody hates us. Even our own people hate us. So that's a hellish condition, and this is something that we have to live with. So this man, he's talking about, his fear of hell. And of course, in the Christian world, they talk about, when you die, you either you go to heaven on a fluffy cloud, or you go to hell, on the bottom of the earth, where you're gonna burn forever and ever and ever. And of course, that will put some fear into you. We all, when we were in the world, we all had that, that image in our head. I thought that was the way it was too. Okay, let's go into the book of Jeremiah 49 and start at verse 12, because you can see here. Okay, as this hellish condition for us is now has played out for centuries and is coming towards an end. Okay, the real fear that the so-called white man, and I'm talking with you everyday Edomites out there. Okay, not only the short callers, your trillionaires who are running this earth, who's keeping the real true meaning of hell from you. Okay, you need to understand this. It says, "For thus said the Lord, Yahweh Shemel Shai, behold, those whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have surely drunken, and thou shalt altogether go and punish." So the Lord is telling you this. His chosen people, the Hebrew Israelites, were not supposed to go through this judgment that we went through because we're his chosen people. But being disobedient children, we had to go, he put us through it. Okay? And guess who he used as the taskmaster and the one that's going to inflict the terror and the pain on us? The so-called white man. Okay, so the Lord is saying, what, you think you're not going to go through this? You're going to go through it. He says, "Thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it." So you too will have to go and experience your hell. "For I have sworn by myself, said the Lord Yahweh Shemel Shai, that Bozrah," which is another name for the Edomite kingdom, okay, "shall become a desolation, a reproach, a waste, and a curse, and all the cities thereof shall be perpetual wastes," which we always bring out the judgment of the Lord Yahweh Shemel Shai has for Great Babylon, America. And we are seeing now the fall, okay, from heaven of this so-called white man right now, which is the reason why you see he's bringing up these things right now with these these false flags and this what they call it, a reality TV of insurrection that's going on right now in order to bring on this new world order, because this is his last hurrah. Esau is right now diligently trying to seek a way in which he can get back into the good grace of Yahweh Shemel Shai, or somehow avert going into that hell condition that he fears so much, which is being at the bottom. Okay, but let's go into this parable that Mashiach spoke about. And you know there's two characters in this. One, okay, is the rich man, which represents, the Edomites, the so-called white people, okay, or the so-called white man. And you have Lazarus, which represents the tribes of Israel, okay, the so-called blacks, Native Americans, and Latinos. It says there was a certain rich man, which was clothed in purple and fine linen and fared sumptuously every day. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus who was laid at his gate full of sores, okay? And so this shows you the condition, okay? We constantly have to bow down to Esau to get anything. So you have our people that desire, okay, just to have a taste of the life, of the heaven of the so-called white man. Because why? It says, and desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores, which the dogs represent these other tribes, these other nations. They get to come over here in America and thrive. They have 7-Eleven stores, laundromats, everything. And Jake have to go spend whatever meager, money that we have to these dogs, okay? To these dogs, which is why they look down on us and go, how the hell we can come over here and prosper and you've been here centuries and you can't, okay? But this is the condition that we're in. And we have to walk with our heads up, knowing that everybody, especially when you awaken this ministry and this truth, you know now what people really is thinking about you like that. And you still got to walk with your head up, okay? In this hellish condition, you got to walk and still have a stable mind every single day that you ain't shit in this society, okay? That people look down on you daily. There's no respect for you, okay? But you still have to hold your head up and hold your integrity and walk like a doggone man. It says, and desiring to be fed with the crumbs that fell from the rich man's table, moreover the dogs came and licked his sores. So the other tribes, they're benefiting, okay? They're benefiting from our hell, okay? Our condition that we're in, which made the so-called white man, the wealthy man, rich. And this is his heaven. It says, and it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by angels into Abraham's bosom. And the rich man also died and was buried. Now you're going to see that transition that I spoke about, in Jeremiah 4:49, and starting with verse 12, where the Lord Yahweh Shai said to Esau that you will drink from this too. The Edomites, you're going to drink from this. Okay, so this is that transition now. It says, and in hell, he lifted up his eyes, being in torments, and seeing Abraham afar off and Lazarus in his bosom. So just like how we experience everything in, Deuteronomy 28, okay, starting from verse 16 all the way to 68, this is what the doggone Edomites are going to experience. They're going to have no assurance of their life, okay? These other tribes that are, work with them, have been a part of their system, and oppressing us, they're also going to be in a hellish condition too. And they're going to be really blaming Esau, the so-called white man, for their hellish condition. So he's going to have a target on his back. And we already know that he's going to be in that hellish condition for what? 10 centuries or 1,000 years. So imagine that. This is their worst fear. Okay? It says, and he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me and send Lazarus, that he may dip the tip of his finger in the water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. He's not in the flame, so if you're in the flame, you'll be burned to death, right? He's supposed to be dead, right? No, this is the transition of Esau falling from his grace, from his heaven, going into hell, and then we now transition into heaven. That's why it says we are in Abraham's bosom, okay? So now we get to have the good life, okay? And these Edomites, they get to have the life that we have, except as I would read later, okay, their experience is going to be far worse than ours, okay? It says, but Abraham said, Son, remember that thou in thy lifetime receivest thy good things, and likewise Lazarus, the children of Israel, evil things, but now he is comforted and thou art tormented. So when these Christians, when they talk, if they really was to tell their congregation what hell is really all about, the fact that they've all lived before, they're all going to live again, okay? So he's talking about, when you die, we're all going to surely die. Yeah, there's going to be death, okay? And you have the 1/3 elect of Yasharala, Israel, so-called Blacks and Americans and Latinos, okay, who are going to be the first to be risen, okay, will not see death, okay? Will have everlasting life, and that's going to be attributed to the children of Israel, okay? Yes, people are going to die, but if you know what regeneration is all about, you will know that you are going to come back to live out your judgment. That's the reason why you're going to have that transition. Okay, you're going to live. If you're catching hell right now, you know, depends on what you did in your previous life. The Lord Yahweh Shema will judge you accordingly. Today you got an Air India plane crash today. One survivor. Okay, 30, they took off in the air, and they get a video of it. 787 jet takes off 30 seconds in the air, and the plane just dropped out of the sky, stalled and dropped out of the sky. Killed everybody on the plane died except one survivor. Okay, that was hell. Those people on that plane, okay, all got the ticket, got on that plane, and the Lord judged all of their ass. That was their judgment. He burned their bodies up. They died a horrible death. Okay, and that's their judgment for the wickedness that they did in their previous life. Okay, this is the book of Isaiah 14, and starting verse 2 reads, okay, again, this fear that this man will have is this, and the people, Salakia says, for the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai will have mercy on Jacob, the 12 tribes of Israel, and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. Because we have our people scattered all across this earth, and it says, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. Who's our oppressor? The so-called white man. Okay, you had the Chinese that was part of that slave trade. You had the Arabs that were part of that slave trade. So they all of our oppressors. They were all a part. They all had a hand in our affliction and our hell that we got, or that we currently experiencing right now. None of them are innocent. So guess what? Just like how you had during the slavery here in Great Babylon, America, with us, you had house niggers and field niggers. You are going to have house Edomites and field Edomites. Okay? That's why you're going to have them being, you know, slave servants and handmaids. But for the most part, most of them are going to be out there burying dead bodies, okay, repairing, cleaning up this earth. Okay, after, you know, the Mashiach returned and destroyed these kingdoms, you know, and you have World War III and the dust settled and clear. So there's going to be a lot of, nobody's going to be idle in the kingdom of heaven. Everybody's going to be gainfully working. Okay? Let's close with the book of Revelation, because this man, okay, you know, in that parable, Esau the Edomite, which represented the Edomites, you know, he cried about the hell, that he was catching hell so horribly that he was begging, okay, to have Lazarus come and try to ease his burden, and he was denied. He was denied. So here's what really is going. Here's what their greatest fear is. This is Revelation 18, and verse 6. It says, "Reward her, even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. In the cup which she had filled, fill to her double." That is an order that's given to us. We are going to give Esau a hell so horrible, okay, that it makes ours look like it was teamed. That is the fear of the so-called white man, okay? His greatest fear is that he's very close to catching his hell. Lord willing, the elect was edified. Let's close by giving all glory and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakadash. Shalom.